Next up is document storage. So this is, well, how do we store documents? So each site within Liferay is its own content repository. And when we're dealing with documents and media, this is no different. So when we're uploading our own files, they will be stored within Liferay's document repository, which is for each site. So each site is its own sort of dedicated repository, right? So in this, parent and child sites can share content amongst one another. If we have two separate sites, these two separate sites do not interact with one another, so they're not sharing content. Content that's added in what we call the global site or the global scope is available to all of our sites. So the global site is how we can get content everywhere. On top of that, recall how I've always mentioned, when you're working with a site, you always want to make sure you know what site we are at. This is because of this concept here, right? Sites that are not related do not share content, right? So you could be working in a site and not know which site specifically, and then, you might not expect what you're expecting. So again, always be careful with that. Content can be organized in folders. This is going to be kind of the classic way or the common way we organize all of our content within the documents and media. So really just the same as what we do within our desktops, right? Unless you're like me and you just have your desktop cluttered with stuff. So dealing with content, more specifically documents, there's a couple ways that Liferay gives to us to better organize these assets or these documents. The first type is document type. A document type is basically a form that allows us to add information about the type of file that we're uploading. Let's say, for example, again, in the Livingston Hotels and Resorts, they have a hotel brochure. So for each hotel that they have a small PDF of a couple pages showing them, showing the guests things like, what time is check-in and check-out, a map of the hotel, what time is breakfast, and maybe, common eateries around town. And so if I'm uploading this brochure, what I can do is I can upload it as a specific document type. So that way, within that document type, it gives me some common fields I can fill out about the file that I'm about to upload. Things like, which hotel is this for? What city is the hotel in, right? Things like that. So the Liferay document type kind of is like an attachment to the file you're about to upload, and it gives you the opportunity to add some information or metadata about that file. Or the other way that Liferay provides for us is repositories. So you can bring in outside document repositories and integrate them within Liferay. So if you use something like Alfresco, for example, you can integrate Alfresco into Liferay. That's a different topic for a different day, of course, but it is an option. And then finally, right, we have folders, right? So create a folder, name it something that's relevant, put all of your files or all of your documents within that folder, and then just create more to be better organized. So when you create, or rather when you upload a file into Liferay, the default option that comes with Liferay is called basic document. It'll give you two fields to fill out. It allows you to have a title and a description, and that's it. Right? If you want to be more complex, or if you want to be able to provide even more information, you can create a different or a new Liferay document type. So organizing assets. So again, we always want to be sure that we are in the site that we intend to be. So is it an individual site that we are going to be uploading or creating this asset? Or is it for every site? We can handle that over in global. Is it between parent and child sites? Or is it a standalone site? Right? These are all questions that we need to be aware of as we're creating and uploading assets. right? And then folders, right? We always want to be sure that things are nice and neat in the enterprise world, right? We're gonna have hundreds and thousands, maybe even up to millions of assets or digital assets that we need to deal with. And so we need to be sure that we have those very easily searchable as well as well organized. Otherwise, we're going to have a bad time trying to find all of these things. So when we are displaying assets, there are a number of different ways we can approach this. One of them is through a specific widget. For most of the assets that we have in Liferay, there is a corresponding widget that goes with it. So for example, when we create web content, to display it, we have a widget called the web content display. For documents and media, the files that I upload there is a widget with the same name, documents and media. So we can correspond one-to-one like that. So for a specific asset, you have a widget that corresponds with it. Another way is displaying a whole list or a whole array of different assets. And the way we do that is with the asset publisher widget. The asset publisher widget, in my opinion, is really, really cool. What it allows us to do is just that, publish and display different types of assets. So we are the ones who can pick and choose. We can decide display these 3 different types of assets or display this specific type of asset, and then you can go really wild with it. Display it as a card. When a new one is created, make sure you display the new one. Only display the first 5, right? Things like that. It can get really, really configurable really quick. So I think it's a very cool widget, a very cool application to work with. So all of that to say, when we're displaying assets, there's 2 different ways. You can pick the widget that corresponds with the asset, or you can pick the widget called the asset publisher, which allows us to display many. So next summary here, again, same story. Go ahead, read through, write in, or fill in the blanks, and then once you're ready, we'll go ahead and review here. So feel free to pause to take the time that you need. Now that we're over here, let's go ahead and review the summary here. So repositories are used to store assets in sites, and third-party document repositories can be integrated in any site. So again, content, assets, more specifically assets. So assets are stored within a site. Right, most assets can be organized by folders and subfolders. Right? This is going to be the primary way that we go about it. Document types are used to identify specific kinds of documents and media in order to simplify organization and searchability. Again, for whatever sort of files we are uploading, and maybe we're uploading a lot of the same file, we can create a document type that goes with it. So web content structures are used to identify specific kinds of web content and define what information needs to be included. Web content structures are a way in which we can create very specific types of web content. So one example could be, maybe I need to create a news article. And again, me not being a front-end guy, not really being a content guy, I might struggle with a blank page. If someone told me, write on this blank page a news article, I would probably get fired. So one of the things you can do is create a structure. A structure is kind of like a form. So if we're creating a news article structure, what someone can do is provide things like, hey, what's the title of the news article? Fill in this field. What's a summary? Fill in this field. Maybe you need an image to show the event. Right? Put the image here. And then start filling out some of the details. When it's presented like that, right, I have a much easier time creating content than just having this blank canvas. So each asset has its own corresponding widget that goes with it. So we know, for example, the web content display widget is used to display web content. And then we can go on and on with that. Widgets, like the asset publisher, can be used to mix and match what and how assets are displayed. An asset publisher is really cool, very configurable. We have a lot of things we can do with it. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and take a look and see how we can create web content, or more specifically, what we call a web content article. Now again, since this is the fundamentals course, we're not going to go into huge level of depth in creating content. We'll go over a little bit. We'll get ourselves comfortable with how to create web content, but again, much more detail is handled in another course. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how we're able to create web content or web content articles.